A visit to a science museum can really rock your world.
We might go, I got it. I know why hurricanes are the way they are. I know why a tornado is the way it is.
You have a personal aha phenomenon where you understand something that you've never understood before.
This is the critical angle exhibit.
A master of the AhHa moment in science museums was the legendary Frank Oppenheimer.
He was a brilliant physicist, a wonderful spokesman and visionary, very passionate.
Frank Oppenheimer had worked on the atomic bomb project at Los Alamos.
He moved out to San Francisco in the late 1960s, and in an old airplane hangar, right on the edge of the Golden Gate Bridge, he founded a new kind of science center called the Exploratorium.
And the story goes that he was putting a few exhibits on this floor of this vast airplane hangar-like building, and someone knocked on the door and it said, "Are you open?" And he said, "Well, I guess so," and opened the doors, and that was the beginning.
What Frank Oppenheimer had in mind was a new type of learning using real basic science and physics. He started a revolution in science education.
He didn't want people to look at objects. He wanted people to interact with objects.
The Exploratorium is made of a very basic phenomena in the natural world. Light waves, bubbles, the bands of color and an oil slick. There's nothing here that isn't honest and basic.
The machine shop is the heart of the Exploratorium experience. All of the exhibits are made in-house, right on the exhibit floor.
What it does is it tracks me. The light reflects off of me and it can sense where I'm at and just follows me back and forth. If I get too close,
You'll see the enthusiasm of the men and women who are making the exhibit. They are like artists, really, and like lab scientists. They are working very hard to understand themselves what will make a very instructive, playful exhibit for our public.
it's just because there's too much gain in the electronics, but it actually, it's so simple, and yet it seems to have some amount of personality.
I knew Frank Oppenheimer. When I first met him, he asked me how often I went on the exhibition floor to watch the visitors' participation, and I said never. And he walked me out onto the floor to say, you're doing this for the visitor, and you therefore have to watch what they're learning from what you're doing, and you have to tinker with what you're doing until they understand it.
Tinkering is the operative word at the Exploratorium.
And it is Frank Oppenheimer who coined this great phrase, "Nobody flunks museum."
This motto became the mantra throughout the world of science centers and children's museums.
The children's museum movement really comes of age in the early 1970s, late 1960s. You have parents who are becoming disenchanted with the public school system and are wanting to found museums where children can come and have educational experiences, and they find the perfect spokesperson, the perfect idealist, the perfect passionate person who's willing to pull this all together in 1962 at the Boston Children's Museum, and that is Michael Spock.
Mike Spock is a legend. He influenced a whole generation of museum educators. Mike came along at a time where we needed a new paradigm for the museum experience.
If a art museum was about art, if a history museum was about history, if a natural history museum was about the natural sciences, the children's museums were not about something. They were for somebody. It was a client-centered institution, and that was the breakthrough. That was the thing that tied everything together. It was for kids. It was for their caregivers. It was for teachers. It dealt with science. It dealt with art. It dealt with history. But it was for somebody. And once that occurred to me, everything then followed. Everything made sense.
Kids have been lining up at children's museums for a long time. The Brooklyn Children's Museum started in 1899 and the Boston Children's Museum in 1913. The model was instructional, more like a classroom.
He transforms this museum into an interactive, very experimental, vibrant community space of activity. And this is considered to be one of the great experimental places that launches the Children's Museum movement.
We're the duck catchers.
We created all these new interactive exhibits where kids learned about real life, and they learned about how a city works. They learned how sewers worked, how to understand the world in which they live.
Kids are learning machines. Play is the way kids learn, and you don't have to dismiss things as being playful. They are it. That's the real stuff that's going on there. You're not trying on just the clothes, you're trying on the business of being an adult, of being grown up.
This is one of the few places that families go together and spend quality time together. And I know we've created those landmark memories in a family's history, deep landmark memories that are about learning and about enjoying each other.
I think we can say with confidence that play is learning, and that is not a waste of time.